Somalia's federal parliament has approved the country's first substantive constitution since the civil war began. But the historic vote in Mogadishu has dramatically exposed the fractured state of the nation. The government now faces the stark reality that two key federal member states representing vast territories and populations have already rejected the outcome. The numbers from Wednesday's joint session tell one story. 185 members of the House of the People and 37 senators voted in favor. Speaker Adhan Mohamed Noor Madobe declared it a milestone, ending nearly 14 years of governance under a provisional charter. But the composition of the chamber told a different story, one of deep regional division. No lawmakers from Jubbaland were present for the vote at all. They had been in Kismayo for consultations with the regional assembly. Deliberately absent from a process their leadership had already declared illegitimate. Puntland's representation was split. Some Puntland's members of parliament did attend and vote, creating a fractured picture from a region in open dispute with Mogadishu. Days before the vote, around 30 Puntland's members of parliament were blocked from flying to Garowe for consultations with the regional president Saeed Abdullahi Deni. Their flight ordered to turn back just minutes before landing. The federal lawmakers described it as a government-imposed restriction on their movement. Hours before parliament convened, two Puntland ministers resigned from the federal cabinet. Ainanshe Yusuf Hussein and Ismail Shire Burale stepped down, with Hussein warning that the constitutional process risked creating what he called a one-person controlled system that threatens national unity. Hussein also alleged that lawmakers from Puntland were denied the opportunity to travel to the regions that elected them. Overnight, tensions escalated further when security forces in Mogadishu raided a hotel and arrested Ahmed Hure, a senior advisor to Puntland's president. Puntland authorities condemned the arrest as a kidnapping, a dramatic charge that underscores the complete breakdown of trust between Garowe and Villa Somalia. Jubbaland had been the most explicit in its opposition. In a formal statement before the vote, the regional administration declared that its representatives were excluded from the constitutional review process, rendering any outcome illegitimate in the eyes of the state. Jubbaland officials stressed that no unilateral amendments will be accepted or applied within its territories without a nationwide consultative framework. Puntland's position was equally firm. Following a high-level consultative meeting in Garowe, President Deni and federal lawmakers from the region issued a joint statement asserting that Puntland recognizes only the agreed-upon 2012 provisional constitution. The statement declared that any amendments made without inclusive consultation are null and void and will not be implemented within Puntland's jurisdiction. The amended constitution now awaits presidential assent from President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, but the practical question looming over Mogadishu is far more complex than a signature. How do you implement a national constitution when entire federal member states say they will not be bound by it? Jubbaland has signaled it will not recognize the outcome. Puntland has yet to issue a formal post-vote statement, but its pre-vote position was an ambiguous rejection. The regions have indicated they could pursue all legal options if the process continues without their input. This dispute is not new. The constitutional review process has been contentious for years, with repeated delays over political disputes, security challenges, and disagreements over federal powers. A similar attempt to extend political mandate under former President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed Farmajo triggered a constitutional crisis in 2021 and led to armed confrontations in Mogadishu. But Wednesday's vote represents a decisive escalation. For the first time, the federal government has formally approved a constitution that two major member states have explicitly rejected beforehand. The foundation for national unity, already fragile after decades of conflict, has been fundamentally shaken. Opposition leaders convened under the Somali Future Council have dismissed the entire process as unilateral and undermining Somalia's federal political agreement. International envoys have expressed mounting concern over the deepening rift, urging restraint and prioritizing national reconciliation. For now, Somalia faces a dangerous parallel: a federal government in Mogadishu claiming a constitutional mandate, and federal member states in Garowe and Kismayo operating under the old rules, refusing to participate in national structures established under the new framework. Analysts warn that the political vacuum risks empowering Al-Shabaab as the country's center struggles to hold. The constitution has been approved improve, but the question of whether Somalia remains a unified federal state or fragments further into competing regional authorities remains very much unanswered. Mohammed Saido, that's in English.